The town of Eldridge was old, very old. The houses were small and cramped together. The streets were narrow and winding, and over everything hung a sense of age and decay. Eldridge was the kind of town where secrets whispered on the wind. On the edge of town stood a house. It was a grand old house once. Now it was falling apart. The paint was peeling, the windows were boarded up, and the lawn was overgrown with weeds. It was a house that had seen better days. The house stood on a hill. It overlooked the town. From a distance, it looked like a watchful sentinel, a sentinel guarding a dark and terrible secret. The townspeople said the house was haunted. They told stories about the people who had lived there and died there. They said that their spirits still roamed the halls. They said that the house was cursed. Alex was a teenager who lived in Eldridge. Unlike most, Alex loved scary stories. He loved the thrill of being frightened. He loved the feeling of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He loved the challenge of facing his fears. Alex had heard all the stories about the haunted house. He had heard them from his friends. He had heard them from his parents. He had even heard them from the town drunk. But Alex didn't believe them. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in curses. He believed in what he could see and what he could touch. One night there was a terrible storm. The wind howled. The rain beat against the windows, and the thunder shook the ground. It was the kind of night that made people want to stay inside. But not Alex. This was the perfect night to explore the haunted house. Alex crept up the hill. The wind whipped at his clothes. The rain lashed against his face. But he didn't care. He was determined to see the inside of that house. He reached the front door. It was unlocked. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air inside the house was cold and damp. It smelled like mildew and dust. Alex could hear the wind whistling through the cracks in the walls. He could hear the rain drumming on the roof, but he couldn't hear anything else. It was eerily silent. Alex took a step forward. The floorboards creaked beneath his weight. He froze. He listened, but there was nothing. He continued on, his heart pounding in his chest. Alex entered a room. It was a study. There was a desk in the center of the room, and a chair behind it. The desk was covered in papers. Alex walked over to the desk and picked up one of the papers. It was a journal. The journal was old. The leather cover was cracked and faded. Alex opened the journal and began to read. The journal belonged to a man who had lived in the house many years ago. The man had written about his life in the house. He had written about his family, and he had written about the strange things that had happened to him. The man believed that the house was haunted. He believed that he was being tormented by ghosts. Section 5. Darkness falls, fear rises. Alex read on. The flashlight flickered. He tapped it on his hand. It flickered again. The batteries were dying. The man in the journal wrote about hearing voices. Whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Whispers that called his name. Whispers that threatened him. Alex paused. He thought he heard something. A whisper. He listened. There it was again. A whisper. Faint, but unmistakable. Someone was whispering his name. Section 6. Faces from the past. The flashlight sputtered and died. Alex was plunged into darkness. He fumbled for his lighter. He flicked it on. The flame sputtered and danced, casting long, grotesque shadows on the walls. He was surrounded. Pale faces floated in the darkness just beyond the reach of his light. Eyes, hollow and filled with a cold, dead light, stared at him. Their lips moved, but he couldn't hear them over the pounding of his own heart. Section 7. Flight through the storm. Alex screamed. He didn't know what else to do. He dropped the lighter. It hit the floor and went out. Alex was surrounded by darkness and the whispers. He didn't wait to see what would happen next. He turned and ran. He ran out of the room. He ran through the house. He ran until he found the front door. He threw open the door and ran out into the storm. The wind tore at him. The rain lashed against him, but he didn't care. He just kept running. He didn't stop running until he reached his own house. Section 8. The house still stands. Alex slammed the door behind him. He leaned against it, gasping for breath. He was safe. He was home. He was never going back to that house again. Alex never went back to the house, but he never forgot what he had seen. He never forgot the whispers. He never forgot the faces. He never forgot the terror. Section 9. The Ghosts of Eldridge Manor. The haunted house still stands on the hill overlooking Eldridge. The townspeople still tell stories about it. They say that it is cursed. They say that it is haunted by the ghosts of the people who died there. And they say that anyone who dares to enter will suffer the same fate. But no one knows for sure what happened in that house. No one knows for sure why it is haunted. The only one who knows for sure is Alex. And he's not talking.